we don't even have control over the thoughts that come up. We have control how we respond to them and if we water them or not, but we don't even control our initial thoughts. It's a wild thing and very, very scary. You're learning from your failures more often than you'll learn from your successes. Now, I think success is important because you got to learn what it feels like when it hits right. So you need the successes along the way, and it takes a lot more discipline and support and internal motivation when you go for long stretches of time without any kind of success.
The science about success shows that the one variable that is huge, way bigger than people account for, is luck.
Yeah, 100%.
Meeting the right person at the right time who has the right opportunity.
Comparison sucks. I hate.
Don't compare.
Yeah, but I do it all the time. There are days where I'm like, what the heck am I doing? I'm not at this point because this person is, at that part in their journey. And that comparison, it's fatal. I think most people struggle with. I think a lot of entrepreneurs probably wrestle with it.
Well, our whole world is designed on it, right? Social media, it's pretty hard not to compare, but we don't see the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Fortin Presents. The next episode has arrived, and today is a bit different for us. I have Joel Arndt with me. He's a mortgage agent.
Right.
Said that right for regulatory purposes. I wanted to make sure to get that right. I met Joel at the Home and Garden Show last weekend here in North Bay, and I just loved his energy and how he was getting people into his booth. And I thought, this guy's a real clever entrepreneur. And then he tells me he has his own podcast and supports entrepreneurs and does all kinds of things. So I said, come on mine, let's do an exchange, let's have fun. So I am introducing you as I am meeting Joel myself right here on the show. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for being here, Joel.
Hey, thanks for having me in. The space is awesome.
It's cool, eh?
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. So we call it Sweet 16 Studio.
Sweet 16 Studio.
Yeah, because it's the Sweet 16 in the building here at 176 Lakeshore in North Bay. Yeah, we love it because we're trying to help entrepreneurs get the media they need to get the attention they need to do the business they want to do.
I love it.
And that's a big piece of the puzzle. So I thought, why not throw myself into that?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your story, what it is that kind of got your entrepreneurial juices flowing. How did that start? So we know you're a mortgage agent. Of course, you help people get homes.
Yep.
But I'm sure there's quite a journey to get to where you are today.
I look back and it's an unexpected journey, but then I hear other people's stories. I'm like, okay, it's not too dissimilar. And the short version is I've always wanted to be in business for most of my adult life anyway. And quite a few, like knocking on several doors that just never opened. Quite a few missteps, failures, things that I thought were just going to be great and never went anywhere. Discovered a lot about myself in that process and what I like doing, what I don't like doing, what I like about business and entrepreneurial ventures and what I don't like about it. And when I finally stepped into the mortgage agent role, which is recent, about a year and a half ago, I found a nexus, of many of the things that I enjoyed. And then it's just kind of grown from there. So before I got into more the marketing side. I did copywriting. So I've always loved writing.
Yeah.
So I started my own little copywriting service, writing marketing material for businesses in the area. Mm-hmm. And that did fine.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to market myself well, but I could market other people well. And I always struggled with that. And because I had a hard time nailing down my own, the value that I really brought. Like there was what I knew, the textbook answer, but the stuff that I knew deep in my core, was like, this is what I can bring to you. And I know you're going to benefit from. Yeah. Had a hard time nailing that down. And so it just went through these different phases. And then eventually just set it all aside and went back into the workforce, was a marketing manager at a real estate firm in Oakville for a while.
Okay.
Few things happened through COVID and after COVID, and had to make a move back up to North Bay. Yeah. Grew up in North Bay, an area, Mattawa, and had to move back from Hamilton. Mm-hmm. And at that time I had been in real estate, knew a lot about it, knew a lot about how to market it, and had always been playing with the idea of mortgage agent. And at this point I was like, why not? It's $400 to take the course, take a shot. Yeah. And I have to make a big change anyway. Job can't follow me. Mm-hmm. So I did, and best move I've made.
Really?
Yeah.
You're happy with it?
Very happy with it. Yeah.
So what made you... Okay, let's get into the process of you actually articulating that value proposition or figuring out what it is, your magic, so that you can properly communicate and get the right business in. Was there a book? Was there an actual process? Is there an inspirational person that helped you get there? Like, what was the key?
Lots of books, lots of inspirational.
Which ones? I want specifics. Yeah. What are the top 2 or 3 books that you would recommend somebody who resonates with that? They're like, I know I got that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you have to nail it down to 2.
I think Simon Sinek, Start With Why is probably the pat answer that you get from everybody. But honestly, like that one is it's something I can go back to. Yeah. The other one is a small little book, and I absolutely adore it, and I listen to it every year. It's like 3 hours long on Audible. It's called The Go-Giver, by Bob Berg and, I forget, they're co-authored.
The Go-Giver.
Yep. And it's a little allegory. Mm-hmm. It's a story told about a salesman that has to meet quota by the end of the week, and how he makes this incredible connection, and how he thinks that this connection is going to be what saves him, and how but that connection actually is completely flips his business and sales ethos on its head. And that book actually really brought me to a lot of personal understanding about what I look for, what I want to be in business.
So is this the idea that like you're not going to figure out what you can get, but you're going to go give?
Yeah. There are 5. It's a lovely little thing because it's a good story and it's structured so that it gives these 5 laws of stratospheric success. Classic self-help, right? Classic self-development. But it does help a lot.
I'm big into that stuff, man. Yeah. I'm shameless about it. Yeah. I love self-development stuff. Like, of course, you have to get off the reading and do it.
Yes.
But I re-inspire myself very regularly with self-help everything.
So I used to listen to motivational speaker called Eric Thomas, and he's a gentleman from the States who an incredibly articulate speaker. Not articulate in the sense that like academic articulate. He can hit the emotions. Yeah. Like he punches. Yeah. And it's so good. Yeah. And he used to say that motivation is like taking a shower. You don't just do it once every year. You need to do it regularly. Yeah. And then there are those people who are like, well, can't rely on motivation whatsoever. Need to be disciplined. I think it's a balance of everything. Like most people aren't machines. There are the people who are just performance machines, and they're going to stick to that discipline because they've got that goal in mind, and that's what drives them, and that's all there is to it. They're pretty narrow. They're really good at those blinders. Mm-hmm. The rest of the population don't work like that. Yeah. Not always. Yeah. So I find for myself personally, it's a mix of motivation and discipline, and having that goal, but also having that internal motivation to work towards the goal. That's the discipline, but also having that external motivation that help kind of also recalibrate the goal and just keep the spirits alive.
Yeah. And keep it going, right? Yeah. Creating habits.
And the Go-Giver is largely about that too. And largely about creating and adding value. Mm-hmm. And that's such a cliche term in business, and I don't love using it, but it's something that I think most people will understand. But literally, what are you bringing to the table? What are you doing for people that it goes beyond collecting a paycheck? Yeah. The first, I'm going to butcher this, but like the first law of stratospheric success, give more in value than you expect in payment. And the minute I heard that first one, I was locked in. Mm-hmm. And that's how I want to do business. And anyway, that all helped. That just helped guide me towards like, okay, well, what am I bringing in value? Yeah. And yeah.
I also think it's like the best marketing is still word of mouth. Really.
Yeah.
Because if you do leave people with that feeling,
yes,
it just spreads.
Warren Buffett, say what you will about billionaires. I know, but Warren Buffett is always still alive. Charlie Munger isn't, but has always been about delighting the customer. What are you doing to delight the customer? And he looks for businesses that know how to do that, and management that focuses not just on building efficient teams, but building teams that understand that you need to delight the customer. And one of the things, so I have a podcast called Wingspan Entrepreneurs where I talk to other business owners in the area, and I get the nitty gritty about how they're doing business in the North. One of the things I see when I start to promote those episodes is the outpouring of love from the community for those business owners.
Those people.
They have done an incredible job of delighting the customer and client. And that's actually a really big goal for me for 24 is just building that foundation for my own business too. And that word of mouth, I think any good marketing just amplifies the value that you already have.
What's already happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And if you do market something that you're not, you're eventually going to fail because you're not going to fulfill. I mean,
you feel the misalignment,
and everybody else does too.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's authenticity at the end of the day is pretty important. Integrity.
Mm-hmm. So authenticity is one of the biggest. So it's the fourth law of stratospheric success.
There you go. I didn't even know.
I mean,
but it's human nature.
And honestly, like the authors are very upfront about the fact that they really have just collected the collective wisdom of self-help knowledge over the last 100 years and just boiled it down into this one allegory into these 5 laws. And they understand that how cliche it is, but it is super helpful. But it's actually the authenticity piece was the hardest thing I struggled with. So I found the book in 2018, but it probably wasn't until maybe 22, 4 years later, that I actually started to connect with that particular element of finding success in life and in business. Everything else in the book I totally latched onto, but that one, when that chapter came, it was like I wrestled with that for a long time. And it would come back and I would get bits and pieces. And I think it wasn't until I had to do some real like inner work, stop hiding some pieces of myself, allow just not, and stop taking I've followed a lot of different people in sales and in business. Stop taking their models verbatim, learn from them, but stop taking them verbatim and trying to become them and just say, okay, well, what does the Joel version of that look like? And that's when the authenticity piece started to click for me too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you had to because it's not like we're separate people. The personal and the professional is separate.
Yeah, no.
We are one person, and when our life falls apart or builds up in the personal, it probably affects our professional. And
absolutely.
So, yeah, and often we don't. They say, you learn in the challenge, not in the success. You learn in the failure, rather, not in the success, right?
I mean, I think it's totally true. Like you learn from your failures as long as you have the right attitude. You're learning from your failures more often than you'll learn from your successes. Now, I think success is important because you got to learn what it feels like when it hits right.
Yeah. Like
when you hit the sweet spot, you want to know what that feels like because you're going to miss again. You're like, oh man, like I want to get back to that sweet spot.
Yeah.
So you need the successes along the way, and it's really hard. It takes a lot more discipline and support and internal motivation when you go for long stretches of time without any kind of success. But and usually it's not a solid, this was a success, this was a failure. Usually it's like a mixed bag. Oh, that worked, but that didn't in this whole package, right? And one thing I really appreciate my last job for was they did a really good job of, they would always do these big marketing pushes and initiatives and events. And we would always do these debriefs after. What worked? What didn't work? What do we actually want to keep? What do we want to leave moving forward? And so that was a big piece. It wasn't that it was a complete failure. It was, these things didn't work. Are they worth trying again?
Right.
These things really worked. Are they worth bringing forward? And
so it's iteration, right? Like you're not going to have a perfect product, perfect service, a perfect life, and then I'm going to be successful. And when I get there, that's we're done.
And I think that iteration thing.
It's iteration, fail, continue, survive, create enough fit. One guy I'm listening to a lot right now, this Alex Hormozy guy, he talks about failing fast. You really need the failures to learn the market, to learn what you're talking about, and you can't start knowing. Yeah. So the faster you can get those failures in, if you're listening and you have the right attitude, the faster you're going to actually get to those successful moments where you go, okay, it was worth it. And I adjusted. Like, we have to adjust.
Yeah.
Man, change, it's easy to say, but then when it's happening in our life, can we do it?
Yeah.
Can we adjust? Can we change? How attached am I to my idea of myself?
I think it's an attitude that works for anybody, but I understand why, many people don't love that whole idea. And so, there's definitely a strong personality type that is much more suited to the 9 to 5. They're given their framework and they do really, really, really well in that framework. I do okay with frameworks. I generally try to buck the framework and change it and shift it and mold it. And that frustrates the people who were setting the framework in place. And I was an okay employee, but I usually annoyed my bosses. Yeah. I do way better as an entrepreneur because I'm now the one setting the framework for myself and adjusting it as I need to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's cool. So tell me about your podcast. What's the point? What's how are you doing with it? You release in seasons, like 6 episode seasons? 7
was this one. I don't have talk about frameworks or not sticking to frameworks. I don't have like a set, I would love for this next season to be 7 to 8 episodes. I know I'll have a good season once I've got those. I've got 5 right now. But the first season launched in end of January. 7 conversations with 7 business owners in the area. Yeah, Mattawa, North Bay, and then Sudbury. And just conversations about their life. A lot of startup stories with these ones. And the question is, when did you become sustainable? Because I think that's also a really big question too. Like, startup stories are great, but what did you do to become self-sustaining? Have you become self-sustaining? And where'd you find the money?
Is there a theme?
The approach is varied. There are more than one ways to get to the same solution, essentially. So, there are several people who were 9 to 5 workers, and they just kept that going until the business demanded more of them and was supplying enough income.
Cash flow.
Yep. Yeah. That's the biggest trend. And I think it's probably most people's stories too.
Yeah.
I have yet to talk to someone who, hang on now, let me double check. Nope, all of them. Yeah, I have yet to talk to someone who started out as an entrepreneur and that life and just rocked with it from the beginning. But the question will always be, what sustained you? How are you eating through that time? Was it credit? Was it savings? Was it help from mom and dad? No bad answer. It's just, and I think that's the thing, like even for my own story, move back up north, don't buy or rent right away, live with mom.
Yeah.
So I have barely any overhead, and that gives the business, it puts less pressure on the business. Yeah. And I don't feel, more often than not, I don't feel like I have to go find something else to put food on the table.
Yeah.
So everybody needs that. Except for the few who
have amazing success off the bat. They hit a home run but then they probably think that's normal, and then 8 or 9 years and 10 years down have an issue and then have to and realize how lucky they were. Or the guys, I read an article in the Globe and Mail that was saying, interestingly, the science about success shows that the one variable that is huge, like way bigger than people account for, is luck.
Yeah, 100%.
Meeting the right person at the right time who has the right opportunity, and then that led to the next thing. And sometimes it's not like in the immediate, right? Like it's just like that led to these things, but it's luck.
Yep.
Even luck of who you're born to, luck of who your uncle is, luck of, there's a lot of luck.
I think that one of the things that I've also, it's a same thing that I've seen through these conversations so far. So there's the 7 that I've done, then there's 5 more that are coming up for season 2. But so far, luck favors the prepared. And
that's just
a lot of the time, it just means getting out there and doing something. And failing fast and failing forward, and allowing yourself to go through the options and filter through what was actually an open door and what wasn't.
Yeah.
And then throw more nuance at you. Sometimes it's not an open door, but just a window, just to look in and see and learn and keep going on your way. But So that luck piece, I believe, is really tenacity and preparedness.
Yeah.
Because probably almost every entrepreneur story is going to be some form of, I tried this, it didn't work. I tried that, it didn't work. I tried this, it did work for a little bit, and then it failed. So I tried that, and that's really what kind of, so that's, yeah.
But it takes a humility to do that too, right? Because if you really care about what other people think, you're not gonna be able to do it, because you might have to move in with your parents in your 30s. Yeah, you might. No, but really, how did you handle that? Is that something that even do you have that? Is that something that was difficult for you in your journey? Like, to have to take a step back sometimes to really get ahead.
Yeah,
you have to you have to reassess, and sometimes look at things and say, this isn't what I was imagining when I was 18. Now I'm 28, or now I'm 38, and I have to do these things. And I speak for myself. Like, this is something I do all the time.
Yeah.
And what people don't see, I always say, after I've been incorporated 5.5 years, and one day I'll be an overnight success.
Right.
I know it.
Yeah.
And of course, my parents have given me so much support over the years that, of course, I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't happen to have that support. Yeah. But also, I own it.
Yes.
I took it. I accept it, and I'm working to pay back. And I'm trying, and people don't see that. Yeah. They just might see, oh, he's lucky. He has somebody who can help him out, who understands mortgages, so he can go be creative. Yeah. So how's that been in your journey? To get into something a little more sensitive and authentic.
Comparison sucks. I hate.
Don't compare.
Yeah, but I do it all the time.
Yeah.
And that, so like it's a bite. Like it bites at my ego all the time, and I've
like by comparing.
Yes. And so there are days where I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Living at mom's or whatever, or what the heck am I doing? I'm not at this point because this person is, at that part in their journey. And that comparison, it's fatal.
Can't do it.
Comparison is fatal. And it's something I think most people struggle with. I think a lot of entrepreneurs probably wrestle with it.
Well, our whole world is designed on it, right? Social media, it's pretty hard not to compare, but we don't see the other side.
It's like anything else. You have to have a little bit of comparison as it's how we measure. And I think a big part of the problem is, like, if we're measuring ourselves against someone else, that's dangerous. If we're measuring ourselves against either what we're hoping for from ourselves and our past selves, that's like where the real inner strength comes from. But how do we know what we want? We don't know what we want until we're exposed to it from someone else. Could be parents, could be friends, could be just what we see on social media. I think there is a certain amount of validity to that. See it, know that you want it, and leave it at that. Don't have to have grace for ourselves. Don't get down on yourself because you're not there within the time frame that you're hoping to be there at. And then also recognize that the story and the plan changes too. I mean, 35-year-old Joel is nowhere where 15-year-old Joel thought he would be. And I am completely okay with that. Yeah. But it took a lot of time to get to that acceptance.
So how do you do self-reflection? What is your practice, if any?
Yeah, I don't have a regular practice. And unfortunately, it's definitely something I know I would benefit more from. But
so what prevents you from doing it?
Mostly
because the resistance. Have you ever read this book, The War of Art, The Art of War? No, not The Art of War. Yeah. Anyways, this about this resistance. When we know we should do something, or we know what's right, everybody knows what to do. Yeah. Talk is so easy. Yeah. Collaboration to say is easy. Yeah. To do it is hard. Yeah. Working out every day, we all know we should do it. Going for a walk, eating healthy. I mean, all the things.
Yeah. Urgency. That's the thing. I think that there's just more urgent things. And that's all perception for the most part. I mean, as a mortgage agent, I actually have deadlines sometimes. So if I don't view something as strictly urgent, or I know it's important, but it's not urgent, it's hard to always prioritize it. Yeah. But I understand that sometimes, like, really, when I find myself most content is when I take a step back from that, the everything being on fire. Take a look at it. Like, okay, yeah, maybe it's not on fire. Maybe it's just like, this just needs to be taken off the stove for a little bit, you know? Or maybe it is something like, okay, no, I have to get this done, but I'm going to make a list here because there's other stuff that are healthy for me that I need to get to after. So take my 30 minutes to an hour to take care of this, whatever it is, and don't stress out about it, because there's a thing for me too is I just get overwhelmed with big tasks, and so I have to break them down into smaller tasks.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot better at that, especially since starting my own business.
Yeah.
So,
because you kind of have to do it. That's very cool. So you don't have like a regular practice, but you seem like you have systems in place anyways to keep you, to help you clarify, because we're all managing stress at a different degree.
It's true. Yeah.
The question is, how do you have any go-to things?
I think the biggest thing for me has been having grace with myself, which means
define that.
Yeah. When first of all, I get frustrated when I get really distracted, and that frustration can send me into another tailspin. So it's just like, no, that's fine. There's a reason why you're getting distracted. What is it? That kind of self-awareness has taken a lot of work to come to, but that's been super important. And that stopping and kind of stepping back has actually kind of worked for everything. So if I'm having a high anxiety day, which I have days where I just don't get a whole lot done because it's like it gets hard to breathe, and I don't know. I talk to a therapist on a regular basis. So
I think everybody should.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Regularly. I was listening to the Huberman Lab.
Yeah. Andrew Huberman.
Andrew Huberman. He was when I think he was talking to Bezos. No, who was he talking? I don't know who he was talking to, but he was saying that he has done therapy and does therapy forever because there's so much benefit to having somebody be able to give you the tools to help you take the next thing. And, obviously super successful person. Yeah. And there seems to be a destigmatization of this. But I also think we're in a mental health, like who's not having mental health issues, because the world we live in is very, very hard to understand.
Yeah. The black and white, I think, that's a whole other conversation. I was going to dive into, I think we used to paint everything black and white, and now we're kind of stripping away that paint and realizing how much gray area there is. But that's a whole other conversation. I think for me personally, so it's that self-awareness where I've become okay with stopping when I realize that I'm in some sort of just minor internal crisis. Yeah. Or major. Yeah. And that has allowed me to
maybe notice, because you pause.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I have support. My team is very good at, I say my team, my brokerage, they're very good at accountability. And they'll ask, okay, well, what are your goals? What are your numbers? What do you need to do to hit those numbers? And then helping just stay accountable with ourselves, that's been important too. So a little bit of self-awareness, a little bit of external accountability.
What do you tell a 22-year-old aspiring entrepreneur about the life you've learned so far and what they should watch out for? Maybe what do you tell yourself at 22 years? What would you tell yourself at 22? Oh, I like that. Just by your reaction, that struck a chord. What would you tell your 22-year-old self?
I don't know, because there's so many lessons I had to go through, I feel like the hard way, and I don't know if I would have listened to anyone.
I always say I tend to have to experience the pain.
Yeah. What I think the question would have been, what would 22-year-old me have listened to? What would he have heard? What could I actually say that he would have grasped? At this point, because I was on such a different trajectory at 22, I was just about to get married. I which I am no longer married, I was very set on one
You knew how
path.
the world
Oh,
worked.
yeah. And I think I probably would have let him continue to know, but I would have said, hey, pay attention to this in yourself more. And that's it. That's what I would have done. I would have pointed him back to himself more because he looked for too much external validation too often.
Yeah.
Still do that. But it's something that I wish. So growing up in the church, it's always, what's God want you to do?
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too much into the spiritual stuff, but I think there is certain
Why not?
validity.
Why don't we want to go there?
Because honestly, I'm still struggling with that whole area of my life. It's
okay.
because I grew up Christian. I've let 99.9% of that stuff go.
Yeah.
But so for me to have any kind of saying on, okay, you want a real backstory? I actually went to Bible college. Like my whole thing was I was going to be a pastor, like my dad.
Interesting.
Yeah. So but I have a hard time kind of weighing in on that now because I just don't really believe any of that. But what I do believe is there is some kind of force that guides you. I don't believe it's external, and I don't believe it's a will that is to be imposed on you. I think it's internal. I think it's tapped into whatever external forces there might be. There's got to be something. And I would have encouraged 22-year-old Joel to trust him, to trust himself more, first of all. Second of all, to get more comfortable with experimenting with those gut instincts and being comfortable failing with those more often.
Yeah. No, well, I appreciate you going there. That's awesome. Because I think for me, the spiritual quest, the quest to understand even the word God. I mean, I couldn't even say God for years.
Okay.
I hated it. Because I grew up Catholic.
Yeah.
And then I rebelled because of the obvious lack of integrity with the church that as a teenager, and plus you look at the gold ceiling at the Vatican. When I did go, I visited, and you go, what would Jesus do?
Which tables in here is he flipping?
Where did this? How did this happen? The ultimate symbol. None of it makes sense.
Yeah.
And so you just obviously, rebel or detach, but then you can also end up being pretty broken or needing something outside of yourself. And then you do some seeking, and then it brings you back to, how do I even understand that word?
Yeah.
And, here we are talking about business, but as people, we have to know why we're getting up. Maybe we don't have to, but at least I like to know why I'm getting up. And I notice a huge change in my energy when, there's a bit of clarity there. And I've struggled with lack of clarity.
Yeah.
And that's why, I've sought so many different practices. But as I do those practices, I had to let go of my own ideas of what I thought about even those words, to accept them, and then to try. Like, we know we need to exercise, but you got to lift the weight.
Yes.
You can't understand prayer unless maybe you take a little time to pray.
Yeah, and different forms of prayer.
Prayer, meditation, reflection, contemplation.
Yeah.
And there are differences between those things, but like experimentation with that. And guess what? You can't do all that in your early 20s. Sometimes there's challenges that force you to have to pause. And guess what? Humans have been trying to figure that out for thousands and thousands of years.
Yep.
And then we do have role models like Jesus, Buddha, Shiva, the list goes on, Gandhi, Martin Luther King. I mean, there's tons, not just all in, Arnold, Sylvester. Like some guy, we all respond to different things.
Yeah.
One idea that has really helped me, though, is this idea of it is. Like,
Fair.
imagine we don't separate, so the bad is, the good is, the black is, the white is, all the contradictions and polarities, they're all part of it. And if we can accept it and see it clearly, we can navigate better.
Yeah.
And yoga is what taught me that.
Yeah.
You know, just accept that your hamstrings are that. And then because everybody gets hurt doing yoga because it's like, oh, I feel good, I'm gonna go more, or I'm gonna compare myself to that person. Why can't I do that? Oh, you get hurt. So many people do yoga and then get hurt because we're trying to be something we're not. But then if you don't push, you also don't get the stretch. You don't get the experience. So it's really interesting that, you know,
it comes back to that grace for yourself and just not passing judgment on A, what's in front of you, B, what's inside.
Yeah.
Because we don't even have control over the thoughts that come up. We have control how we respond to them and if we water them or not. But we don't even control our initial thoughts.
Sure.
It's a wild thing and very, very scary. You know, the Stoics say, amor fati, love this, love fate.
Yeah.
Love what's in front of you. Use it as fuel. And that's something that I've really latched on to. You talk about
Stoics?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Stoics too.
The clarity comes as I don't think it's a bad thing to have expectations, but I think we have to hold them with an open hand.
Yeah.
And and if they get washed away, that's fine. That is what it is.
Speaking of washed away, boy, February, it's pouring rain.
February 27th.
There's a thunderstorm here, and we're in North Bay, Ontario. It's supposed to be snow.
I don't love this winter. I moved away from Hamilton thinking I'm going to get actual winters again. We got one last year. Last year was nice, but I like the snow. I'm a freak, I know. But
I agree with you. If you're going to be here, you might as well.
This slushy gray stuff, I would have stayed in Hamilton if I wanted this.
Speaking of entrepreneurial challenges, I keep thinking of snowmobile dealers.
Oh, man.
Could you imagine having like 250 snowmobiles to sell this year? You know
Mattawa
what I mean? And
as
then
a
what
town.
that's going to do.
Yeah. Mattawa as a town is run on in the winter is run on basically snowmobilers.
Yeah.
I mean the ski hill helps out a bit, but the ski hill can't do jack with this. And the trails have barely been open this year.
Yeah.
And it's
devastating. Like, how do you handle that?
Gotta adapt.
You got to adapt.
There's
no change. Here we are. This was a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate you coming in and sharing your wisdom. I knew I would get you into the real stuff, not just the straight business stuff. And I appreciate you sharing those insights. I hope somebody out there benefits from some of your tips and of course benefits from your work too if they want to help with their mortgage. So tell people where we reach you, where we find you, and what you really want to help them with. What is that value proposition?
The biggest thing I would hope for anybody listening right now, if you are an entrepreneur or if you have a business, you want to start a business, check out Wingspan Entrepreneurs. It's on Spotify right now, and I'm posting about it all the time on my Instagram. So funded by Joel, and
come on in. Let's see who it is. Come on in. We're recording a podcast. Pure later.
Awesome.
What'd I get?
Richard Fortin?
Yeah, that's me. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, let's see what it is, Joel.
The gift.
It's destiny.
Gift. It's a book. It's a book.
It is. I know it is because I've been obsessed with this guy.
Oh,
It totally relate. I mentioned his name earlier.
Okay.
So that was not planned. $100 million offer. Ooh, so this Alex Hormozi.
Yeah.
Do you know? Have you been?
Yeah, I've seen
him?
his Instagram stuff.
Yeah, he's really interesting because I listen to somebody like him, and I go, it's possible. Like what he's accomplished in 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's I'm not saying we should all aspire to be that, but man, he's probably got something to teach me. Yeah. The thing is, I do audiobooks.
Yeah,
I
me
tend
too.
to get through them. I have a hard time sitting there and reading. I'm busy, I'm distracted, a lot of different things. But he speaks, his audiobook has so much good stuff so fast.
You want to be able to highlight.
I want to be able, and I need to execute it.
Yes.
Because guess what? The audiobook isn't enough.
No, it's not.
You can't listen to it. You got to do it. You got to push the weight. You got to walk the walk. You got to do it. And I'm really trying to set up my systems for sales and doing things better and taking the business to the next level. And so I've ordered a couple of his books to help me execute on that. And
I think he's got so much to teach when it comes to like that sales end and just not unashamed of the value that you bring, right? And
Yeah.
and being intentional and stuff like that.
And asking too.
Yeah,
Like the
and
other thing
asking,
is like
exactly.
like make
Unashamed.
the calls, like ask, like and what's cool with these guys though is they're not asking 5 people.
No.
Like ask 500
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like go out there, and to me that's inspiring because I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I need money. How do I
So,
ask
okay,
for
this is a
money
really
because
good
I'm
example.
coming at it. Yeah.
So that clarity piece, I don't know if we want
Yeah, let's do it.
to. Another one another personality along the same lines of Alex here would be, why am I blanking on his name? He's from Orlando, or I think,
Orlando.
or Miami.
Miami.
Oh, he's
DJ
from
Khaled.
Florida. Anyway.
I think DJ Khaled.
No,
Which I
no, he's a
also
big
love
sales
because
guy,
he's, like,
but
so
I'm
energetic.
totally blanking on his name. He's a huge sales guy, huge into real estate.
With the glasses, he does a bunch of stuff with Tony Robbins.
He has, but holy cow, why am I? That's incredible.
Okay, what's the
anyway?
point?
It doesn't matter.
What does
He has a
teach?
whole sales program and stuff, and he's very like, one of his tagline is "Don't be a bitch," and I get where he's coming from. Yeah, that's
I have a sticker there that says "Not your bitch."
Yeah, it's not the approach I'm gonna take ever, but I get where he's coming from, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot that I've learned. There's a lot that I tried to mirror after with him that would never ever work for me.
Yeah.
But there are certain principles that I think are true there that I've gleaned and have kept and held on to. 30-year-old Joel, 32-year-old Joel was very much trying to be him.
Mm-hmm.
And, someone like Alex Hormozy, almost verbatim.
Mm-hmm. But then it's not real.
It fought so hard.
You can't be this guy.
You could feel the gears grinding.
But the system.
Yes. And the principles, and even with
That's right.
Even with the Go-Giver, it's not like I'm trying. And what I like about that is, even though there is a certain personality that they kind of bring in, they actually bring in several. So it's not like one kind of person has to be this. But
No.
Anyway, that's besides the point. You want to talk about clarity? I had to try and be that person and figure out that I couldn't be that person. It made me feel sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
To realize that, okay, there are things I can keep here, but that's not me. And I came to that clarity because I had to slug through the mud for a little bit on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, no, I know. And then realizing I don't have to do that. I'd wash myself off, find another path. It's fine. But
Beautiful. Well, I encourage you to keep going on the podcast. I'm going to check it out and listen. And good luck on the new season.
Yeah, thank
I'm going
you.
to check that out. Maybe we could plug it here, Adam. Adam, how are we doing? We're a little long on this one, but it got really interesting towards the end there, in my opinion, because we got into the real juice. The lifetime, because the thing is, we're all going through the struggle together. We just, we need to get into it.
that's the whole point of Wingspan Entrepreneurs. So the whole premise of that, I'm a huge plane fanatic. I love planes. So the idea is you are your drive. You are the engine of this vehicle. Like the business is your vehicle. Mm-hmm. You are the engine in this thing driving it forward. No one else is going to propel this forward except for you. The frame, the airframe is how your business is actually structured. Mm-hmm. Are you running lean? Is it heavy? How are you, what's that expense to income ratio? Mm-hmm. But then there's your wingspan. That's what's actually catching the air and producing lift. And that's your community. So we, Wingspan Entrepreneurs, are your community. We can be that support so that even if the engine quits, you're still gliding.
Yeah.
It's not failure. You're not crashing. And we can be there to help you keep going until you get that engine going again.
Beautiful. Well, I hope that our communities collide and integrate and come together. I'm sure they will. I really, really appreciate you coming in. I love your energy, and just from when I met you to now.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm just really excited that we had the opportunity to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And good luck.
Thank you. Yeah.
Everybody, check it out. Wingspan
Entrepreneurs.
And of course, go subscribe. Subscribe to Richard Fortin Presents.
Yes, absolutely.
Let me know what you think. Let me know who we should talk to next. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Just let me know.
Yeah.
Comment, right, Adam? We're good. We love comments, feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down. Even if you didn't like it, let me know. We'll see you soon. Ciao for now.